With all these new restrictions still in place, how feasible is it for these businesses to actually make money in this environment?
Well, good morning. It's great to be here, and an exciting day, as you say, for non-essential retail and for hospitality. And I think to your question, initially, you would expect actually demand to be extremely high. There's a lot of pent-up demand. The consumer sentiment is very positive on the back of the vaccination program that you alluded to, and also you would expect, especially in retail, some early discounting to clear old stock will really entice customers back, along with the spring-summer collections coming through. So you would expect the customers to get out there, those that are brave enough to get out into the high street, to get out there and make the most of it in the next couple of months. However, this is likely to be a short-term boom. So as the time rolls on, you would expect perhaps the new post-pandemic, new normal behaviours to kick in, and things may not be so rosy later in the summer.
Well, to your point, I mean, if you look back at the last year, the pandemic has certainly influenced the way we shop. I know from my own personal habits, I literally buy everything online, and that out of necessity, but going forward, it's going to be out of choice simply because it's so much easier. How much do you think the change in behavior that has been accelerated by the pandemic is actually just going to be a lasting feature in the way people conduct their shopping, whether it's groceries or online retail? How much of an impact do you think that is also going to have on the overall industry?
Well, I think the impact over time will be enormous. We recently conducted some research on consumer priorities, and it was really clear that consumer behaviours have fundamentally shifted, probably forever. Over half UK consumers have said that their behaviour in terms of online shopping and in terms of actually their social conscience when they shop has radically shifted as a result of the pandemic. And what we've really seen is the rise of effectively a new consumer segment. And it's the one that's based around anxiety. So those that are more anxious, who have had perhaps health concerns or have got financial concerns on the back of the pandemic, will fundamentally shift their behaviours to a much larger extent. Those that are less anxious will be back out there on the high street, and you saw them in the pubs at midnight last night. Those guys will be back on the high street, back in the shops, back in the hairdressers, etc., in force. So you can expect a very different return to shopping behaviour over the next few weeks and months.
You mentioned anxiety. Do you think the introduction of a COVID certificate would help ease people's concerns? And I raise this because for the most part, we're seeing that pubs, restaurants, retailers have rejected the idea of using a COVID certificate. But if that's going to attract more footfall, then surely it makes sense to introduce one.
I think for some people it would help. But the practicalities of operating a system like that clearly make it less attractive for the operators, and of course the spectre of information security is another aspect to consider. So I think there are pros and cons to it, and of course over time what you would hope is that the new normal starts to look a bit more like the old normal, and therefore the vaccination program and people's confidence that the infection rates are extremely low will mean that something like that is actually not required. So I think in the short term, most operators will try and avoid the extra costs associated with monitoring a system like that.